Live from the AirTech Heating Studios, a Born to Win media production. Welcome to the resurrection of Say It Like You See It.
It's a tough day if you're a Ravens fan, and even tougher if you're a big fan of Lamar Jackson. This is Say It Like You See It. My name is Trace the Moose Moustakis, welcoming you from the heart of Packers country, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, joined by me, my partner in crime, my sidekick, Mr. Quinn the Mighty Q Redmond from Fargo, North Dakota. Let's bring him in right now. Quinn, how's it going, buddy?
We already know it's Taco Tuesday.
It's a Taco Tuesday.
Hey, we're rocking and rolling. Like you said, for those Raven fans, and that is Raven fans that enjoy seeing Lamar Jackson, you might be needing to go buy a Lamar Jackson jersey of a different color because there's no way he's playing for the Ravens anymore. But we'll get into that later. Either way, it's a Tuesday. It's 2:04. It's rock and roll. Any special Tuesday things in your world that are?
None. I just got done with the gym. Today was surprisingly a short day at work for me, which is really, really nice. I took full advantage when I was offered to go home at like 10 o'clock today. I said, see ya, and went home, did a little bit of chores. Then I went over to the gym. Now we're getting into it, and I'll have the rest of the day to relax, which I'm very happy about. But what a day, what a week, unbelievable turn of events here for Ravens fans and for fans of Lamar Jackson. So obviously the news broke yesterday that Lamar Jackson has requested a trade, but requested a trade as early as March 2nd. An unbelievable revelation as to why it hasn't gotten out until right this point. But nonetheless, Lamar Jackson is basically saying, no matter how much they offer me, I will not be playing for the Ravens again next season. Let's dive into it. So before we get into speculation about where Lamar is going to end up, which teams are in the bidding war for him, let me ask you this. How did you handle the news when you found out officially Lamar Jackson has said, look, I'm done?
Well, the way that I kind of look at it is I see it from Lamar's side. I understand why Lamar is upset. Hey, I played out my full rookie contract plus my 5th-year option. I put my body on the line. I win 75% of the time. I've brought you guys to the playoffs. I'm a spectacular player. I've won an MVP. And looking across at the other quarterbacks in the league, I feel that, speaking as if I'm Lamar, I feel I'm better than most. I feel I'm a top 5 QB. I feel like I've, done and produced for this team. And based off of my value that I bring to the team compared to some other quarterbacks that are in this league, I feel I'm better than Kyler Murray. I feel I'm better than Deshaun Watson. I feel I'm better than Dak Prescott. I feel I'm better than Daniel Jones. I feel I'm, of the caliber of the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes, and the other guys that are essentially going to be receiving and already have really big contracts. But the issue on the Ravens side, the Ravens have won 2 Super Bowls in this century. You know who hasn't even, had any playoff success? The Cleveland Browns. So in terms of the way that the Ravens want to look at it, they've won 2 Super Bowls without Lamar Jackson. They haven't had playoff success with Lamar Jackson. And yet you think that we should shell out $240 million guaranteed because a team that's in our own division and conference who hasn't made it to a Super Bowl, let alone had playoff success, let alone been anything other than a dumpster fire of a franchise, wants to pay a quarterback $230 million guaranteed. We are not going to do that. We are the Baltimore Ravens. There's a reason we go to the playoffs multiple times. There's a reason we're a well-run organization. And you know what? It starts with, we're not paying you $230 million, especially as a guaranteed thing. Now, if I'm the Ravens, I think maybe the way that you kind of, meet in a middle ground here, because the early reports were, hey, they're $100 million off between Lamar and the Ravens. And it's like, well, $100 million, that's a pretty big gap. It's not, 1 or 2 or 10 or 15. But ultimately, if it's Lamar wants a guaranteed contract and Lamar wants to feel like he's, the number one value to the Ravens, and, he wants to be made the special prom date, then I think that they need to do something that's a little bit more closer to the Kirk Cousins thing, where it's like, hey, we can offer you a 3-year guarantee with $140 million. Like, you're looking at something where it's, in that rough, hey, 40 to $45 million a year guaranteed for 3 years. And that's kind of where we're going to be at the end of the day, at the end of those 3 years. Either we're going to be on good grounds and we're going to continue and kind of go forward from here. Or if you want to test the market, see where you're at. And if at the end of that 3-year contract, you want to go, then we'll see you later. But at this point, the fact that he's requested the trade, I don't really think there's any concession that can kind of be made by both sides. Lamar doesn't have an agent. Lamar's dealing with it by himself and his family and some outside source that the league said not to talk to, because essentially anybody can call an NFL team and say, I'm representing Lamar Jackson. So
Right.
that's part of the issue. Lamar has gone about this in the completely wrong way. I get it. You don't trust people. You don't want to be screwed on anything else. But at the end of the day, there's a reason the NFL operates as a business, and it's operated this way for a very, very long time. You just because you showed up and you're the new hip thing, the NFL has been here for a very long time. That's the one thing about the NFL. It's not the NBA. You don't matter. It's not that you're a number. But you know what? You're not going to be a prima donna. You're not going to scream and whine and throw a tantrum and say, "Well, I just deserve better. I need better." And it's like, sorry, dude. As you can see now, there's a lot of teams that don't want to pay you that, because most of the NFL are very, very well run businesses. And no business is going to say, yeah, man, we're going to give you $230 million because one of the worst 3 businesses in this organization decided to give their quarterback that. It's idiotic. And anyone who thinks that, oh, they should just pay him guaranteed money. We're not talking about baseball. This is a capped league sport.
Absolutely. So I was thinking about this when the news broke yesterday, and a thought came to my mind. I have no problem with Lamar asking for the number that he's asking. $230 million. We are seeing this is the golden age of quarterbacks, right? I mean, people talked about the mid 90s and then into the 2000s with Brady and Manning and Roethlisberger. We have more pure quarterback talent in today's NFL than we have ever seen in our entire lives. And that's just because the quarterback position is getting more athletic. They're getting more reps, more reps, more reps. Guys are getting better at a younger age. It doesn't take, 3 to 4 years now for players to really hit their peak. Look at Mahomes. He did it in his second year. So the numbers,
Some
not
would
the
say
problem.
first.
Right. Well, his rookie year, Barry, he only played that 1 year, but it's his first full year of starting. You're right. So the number is not the problem I have, but here's what the guaranteed money means to me. If I'm a quarterback like Mahomes or Herbert or Burrow or Allen, I'm looking at it and I said, I don't need the guaranteed money, because in the event that I sign the next contract and I'm making 40 million a year, but my incentives can get me another 50 million over my contract, I know I'm going to hit those because I believe in my talent. I believe in my ability to play the quarterback position. Guaranteed money to me means I don't know that I can do what I've done and do it again at the highest level, whether that be because of injury concerns, whether that be because, just the way that the league is pivoting, whether that be talent around me, whatever the reason may be. When I hear guaranteed money, I hear I'm banking off of what I have shown you I can do, not what I'm going to do going forward. And that's exactly where I think Lamar is kind of exposing himself. And I think that's why the Ravens are calling his bluff. They're saying there's only one reason you'd want all that money guaranteed, and it's because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to hit that again. And because look at Mahomes. If Mahomes said, I want guaranteed money based off of what I'm going to do going forward, no one would blink an eye. They'd give him a fully guaranteed $50 million a year, fully guaranteed contract, because he's already won 2. So they already know what he can do. But Lamar hasn't shown that he can do anything in the postseason other than win a singular playoff game. You're
And
only going off of what Lamar has done in the regular season. So
yeah, and that's the bad part about the playoff piece. Since Lamar's come into the league, for any player who's had multiple playoff appearances and multiple playoff games, Lamar has the worst playoff record out of any of those quarterbacks.
That's my
He's
point.
got he's got the lowest passer rating, and he's got a 1-3 record.
Now, look, there's a lot of areas that Lamar has gotten a lot better since he's entered the league. His passing, his QBR went way up, his completion percentage way up. That year that he won the MVP, he threw for, I think he had over 50 total touchdowns. I mean, he was just an unbelievably dynamic, Madden style, Heisman winning caliber player that you would see and you would have on like video game numbers. But the problem is, the only thing that I can think of when I hear, as not only a fan, but someone who objectively listens and cares about and studies the game, is Lamar is basically saying, I'm terrified that within the next 5 years, I'm going to get hurt again and have a potential career-ending injury I need to be taken care of. So
I definitely see where that, I mean, I think it's, hey, look what I've done. So pay me for that, because I basically took a discount all those years being on my rookie year, especially playing through that 5th-year option. There's a lot of quarterbacks now, they literally get to the end of their 3rd year on their rookie deal, and we're talking about extensions and big contracts and what's going to happen next. And so for Lamar with that, yes, it's been 24 months of this constant contract negotiations that the Ravens aren't conceding on. But if I'm the Ravens, I'm not going to concede to somebody who doesn't play well in the playoffs. At the end of the day, for the Ravens organization, it's like, yes, we're glad you won an MVP, but that doesn't mean that we won an MVP. That means that you won an MVP. That's good for you and your personal accolades. But for us as the Baltimore Ravens, we haven't played in the last game of the season. We haven't played in the second to last game of the season. That's an issue for us. We are a winning franchise. And don't take this as like I'm a huge anti-player, but like Lamar has no basis to stand on. If no team is like, hey, yeah, we want to get you, because like you saw the Falcons come out immediately. And out of any place, the Falcons is the number one fit for Lamar Jackson. That is the best place he can go play.
Actually, I disagree with that. But
there's one other place, and that's Washington.
Well, no,
Washington and the Falcons are the 2 best places for Lamar to go. And
I disagree.
I still think Atlanta, NFC, and not only in the NFC, in the worst division in the NFC, they have a ton of cap space, and they've got a great receiver / tight end in Pitts. And they can bring in a lot of other young talent with an offensive head coach.
Listen, there is a team that I'm going to get to, and nobody's talking about them because they're never in the conversations to land free agents. I'll get into it in a minute, but where we think Lamar is going to land. But the only thing that I'm thinking now where I can kind of side with Lamar, the only thing is looking around the league. You saw Deshaun Watson get that guaranteed contract. Daniel Jones just got a payday, and Lamar Jackson is far and away 5-10 times better than Daniel Jones in his best season.
Correct, but Daniel Jones hasn't missed 10 of the last 22 games he could have started in.
That's my point. Like I said, that's the only thing that I can side with Lamar is, look, the number that you're asking for, like it's not about the amount that you're asking for. If you're asking for, let's say he's asking for 47, 47 a year, 48 a year, that's not a problem. Daniel Jones.
But that is a problem. That's part of the issue. So there's a reason why all these quarterbacks keep somewhere getting stuck around the $40 million a year. Like Dak got about $40 million a year. Patrick Mahomes' deal ended up restructured, and it's about $40 million a year. Kirk Cousins was a little bit less than 40, but it's pretty close. Aaron Rodgers was around 40. Everyone sticks right around that 40, because if you go a lot higher than that, you don't have anything else to give. So unless you're a really, really young team, which this is why, again, I said for Atlanta, they can be a very, very young team. They can sign Lamar, have him for 3 years, and not have to worry about anything. They can bring in a bunch of rookies. They can bring in a bunch of other guys to build around him on that offense. And it's like, yeah, we don't have to pay any of those guys. We can just pay Lamar. That is the difference with offense. And that's what teams are, I think, starting to understand, because that's what Kansas City exposed. It's like, hey, no, we're not going to pay big money to anybody but our quarterback. Like, we'll pay Patrick Mahomes a bunch of money and we'll go find a bunch of pieces and we'll have a really good defense, or we'll build a defense that's good enough to stop majority of the league. And our offense is better than everyone else's. And we're going to do it with rental pieces and new trials and rookies and guys who are on their third contracts,
Right.
which is why, like, I think either Odell or D-Hop will be with the Kansas City Chiefs next year, as a side note, throwing that out there.
No, it's you're right. But not everybody is Patrick Mahomes.
Correct.
And I don't think Lamar, I mean, Lamar's good. Lamar
And that's to a bigger Lamar credit. That really means that he shouldn't ask for a ton of money, because he needs a lot of help.
Right. I understand what you're saying. I think Lamar is, if I were to offer Lamar a contract, I would give him no more than a 4-year deal. And I would say, I'm going to pay you $42 million a year. And I will give you 66% of that. So 2/3 of your contract, I'll make guaranteed money. That's about as high as I'm willing to go. So what would that be? $208 million? I mean, that's a $208 million contract. No, I'm sorry. That's 5 years.
5 year. If it was
Correct.
210 at 42
what would
a
that
year.
be? So what would that be if it was a 4-year? What, 168?
168, yeah.
Yeah,
With
168 with 2/3 of it
100
guaranteed.
Okay. I mean,
So
that's
yeah. So you're looking at over a little over $100 million guaranteed. That's incredible.
there's no way he takes that deal.
No, of course not. But that's the way I'm looking at it if I'm a GM, and I can understand why the Ravens are looking at it and going, dude, what you're asking for is insane. You're not Patrick Mahomes. You're not even Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, or at this point, with the injuries that Lamar's accrued, I don't even think he's better than Justin Herbert. I think he's probably floating right around that 5 to 6 range in terms of best quarterback in the league. And with going as low as about 8 and as high as 4. But that's it. I can't put him in the top 3. So
yeah, he's definitely not top 3.
Right.
And
yeah.
And it's, I don't know. It's, I constantly go back and forth, because it's one of those, and it's like, I've literally been a Lamar Jackson fan since his first day he stepped and started playing at Louisville. Like, I watched a lot of Lamar Jackson in college. I've seen Lamar. There's a reason I've always been very, very high in Lamar. But that was before he got injured and started missing games. And now we're dealing with this whole, well, I want to do everything different than everyone else. Like, Lamar, you are special. You are a special quarterback, but you know what? You're the same as every other quarterback that plays in the NFL. You are no different than any other NFL player. Go get yourself an agent. Go get someone who understands what this is. Everyone says, "Oh, ignorance is bliss." No, ignorance will get you hurt. And ignorance is going to leave you in a lot of really, really bad situations. And that's exactly what's happening in the Lamar situation. He's going into negotiations with people who have done it for basically as long as he's been alive. We understand most NFL owners and GMs are very old. They've done this for years and years and years. And you think, I'm Lamar Jackson. I've been in this league for 5 years. I've won 1 MVP and 1 playoff game. Thank you very much. Now give me a bunch of money. Sorry, dog. That's not how it works. Go in, like with the Ravens case, it's like, hey, we're going to offer you a sizable contract. We drafted you. We care about you. We want you in the building because you do make us better. You are better than Tyler Huntley. You're better than most other options out there in the NFL. But the minute you now try to think that you're so special and so different that you want to rewrite and you want to make it at the top of, I'm now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Sorry, dude. We're the Baltimore Ravens. We don't do that. We won with Trent Dilford and Joe Flacco. Like,
that's true.
You want to be special. You want to get a bunch of money. Go play for someone else. Like, go hit the market. Go hang out with all 31 other teams. Go see if any of them are going to ask you for it, because I guarantee you no one will. And so people talk about, oh, it's collusion. Oh, it's collusion. No, it's not collusion. It's called smart business sense.
Yeah, he's just
no one is
asking for too
dumping
much.
money into him.
He's asking for way too much.
the Falcons can't, but that's where I go back on the, hey, dude, what if we gave you $40 million a year, like you were talking about, $40 million a year. We go 40 million for five, like even 5 years. We go, all right, 5 years, 40 million a year. We'll give you 160. That's it. He'd be idiotic to not take that deal.
Yeah,
But now it's an issue of, because of all this other noise and stuff that had happened. I'm sorry, if I'm the Ravens, I don't even care anymore. I don't want him. If I am the Baltimore Ravens, I am out of Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. I'm done. I'm past. You want to go deal with some other team and some other franchise? That's just fine. 30% of free agents hit in the NFL. You want to go test your luck with the rest of the league? You want to go test and see how good you can be? Better get your ass to the NFC, because if you think that it's going to work in the AFC, the only other team that it might work with maybe will be Bill Belichick. Maybe.
So that poses the question, where does Lamar Jackson end up next year? Now, the team that I'm thinking of probably won't happen, although it does make the most sense to me. But I'm going to start with you because you already alluded to it a little bit. You think the Atlanta Falcons, and you also think the Washington Commanders. I'm going to ask why the Commanders.
It's more the Commanders, and the reason in the sense of it's across the street. If you are a Lamar Jackson fan that is like a Raven fan because you're a Lamar Jackson fan, there's like, you would have probably like 5 to 10,000 people who are like just Lamar Jackson fans that like are they would all come right across the street and all be Commander fans because Lamar Jackson is there. So as a money sense, in terms of, hey, you get a chance to play in the NFC East. You get to play the terrible defense in the Cowboys twice a year. You get to play the average Giants twice a year. You get to play the Eagles twice a year, which
they're not going to be
on most years are average or slightly above average team.
That's right. It's exactly
and so
right.
You have a young crew. You have a very good defense. It's a very viable option. Now, are they going to give him a bunch of money? Probably not.
Nope.
Are there really the best case scenarios for him to be there with the way that the head coaching situation is and it's defensive versus offensive? Probably not. Not a great perfect fit, but Eric Bieniemy is now the OC. And if the way that that's transpired is they said that when Rivera's gone, Bieniemy will then transition to being the head coach. So it's like, that could work out in, if you had a 3 or 4 year deal in Washington, hey, build for the first year. Hey, if Rivera ends up gone after year 1, then Bieniemy's the head guy. Well, he's the offensive mind, and he's going to steer everything more offensively. And it might be built and be fantastic around you. But it goes back to his health and how healthy is he going to be? His game. Yes, he's gotten significantly better in the pocket and is transitioned to be a very viable pocket passer. But he's not a better thrower of the football than Trevor Lawrence, than Patrick Mahomes, than Joe Burrow, even to a degree, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. Like, he's comparable to Josh Allen, but Josh Allen having the size element and can do more.
Way bigger.
And I see Lamar a lot of time. Lamar got into this notion where he started like doing this weird like sidearm thing. And so he started kind of like this weird sidearm pass, and like he was getting real short with guys, and a lot of passes were falling short on some stuff across the middle. And like it looked terrible. It looked really terrible for about a season and a half. And I don't know what that is anymore. And so if that's going to be his continue forward passing motion, no, he's going to get dropped out of the top 20 as a passer if that continues. So I'd say first would be the Falcons. They have the cap space. They have all the other pieces to make it work. They can wait essentially until after the draft. It's like, hey, pick up a great pass rusher at 7. You then trade the 2 firsts to Baltimore because it's the franchise tag thing. So they're just going to send them 2 first. And we're talking about next year. You now can basically build whatever else you need around him, kind of make the defense workable. But like, Atlanta should be 1. I would say actually the Colts would be 2. And then the Commanders 3. But the reason why for the Colts, like the Colts are just ready to go. Like, if the Colts wait until after the draft, hey, we take a good edge rusher at 4. or they trade back from 4 and acquire some more picks to get random kind of average pieces. You can build a lot of guys that's a young core to be around Lamar for years. And it's like, hey, I don't know how much they really feel about Will Levis or Anthony Richardson or Hendon Hooker. So if you want to be good now, you want to win now in the next 3 years, then they should probably find a package together for him. So I would go Falcons 1, Colts 2, Commanders 3.
So realistically, I think we're looking at the most likely landing spot for him. And this is just a pure objective take. I'm not talking about even where I'd like to see him, because there is a place, like I said, I'm going to be talking about here in a second. I think the most realistic spot for him to land would be Indianapolis. Like you said, they're ready to win now. They're just a quarterback away. They've got a good defense with a great corner. They've got a good defensive line, a decent offensive line, a great running back, and no real, I mean, Michael Pittman's a good number one, but he's not a great number one. No, I mean, he is a number one. People would say that, but he kind of falls in the DJ Moore kind of realm, which is, yes, you're a number one and you're a talented player, but nobody would
recognize 2 on most.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, if
you're
you
a great 2,
you're probably one of the best 2s.
A sub-average 1.
Yes, that's correct. So most likely the Colts. Then I've heard, the Commanders, we've kind of speculated great defense. They've got Terry McLaurin, same style of team, two good running backs. I've even heard the Miami Dolphins with Tariq and Jalen Waddle, constructing the fastest team ever made.
Yeah, that would be absolutely insane. Miami, any team that has any type of construction would want to build their field with speed bumps.
Correct.
Like, that is insane.
So fast. But there's one team, and it just crossed my mind this morning. I woke up, I was taking a shower, and I thought to myself, there's a team that literally fits Lamar perfectly, and no one's talking about it. That's the Minnesota Vikings. So all they have to do is make a straight swap for Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins is on the last year of his deal. So all Baltimore would have to do is get the first round pick from Minnesota and Kirk Cousins, and you get Lamar Jackson. Then you've now got a dynamic quarterback in Minnesota. You've got a number one with Justin Jefferson, and then Minnesota can go completely in on defense. That's all they've got to do. So you've got a legitimate number one. You have a legitimate number one running back and Lamar Jackson on your offense. That's an insanely stacked offense. All you got to do is go find a couple of receivers, build throughout the draft, and boom, Minnesota's at the top of that division. No more Aaron Rodgers. Justin Fields, we don't know if he can play. And do you really trust Jared Goff and the Lions after one good year? No, thank you. I'll take my chances. The Minnesota Vikings would be the perfect landing spot. And then on Baltimore's side, you get a quarterback that has no injury history. He's always in top 15 production. And if you believe that your roster is stacked, high enough, all you need is a guy like Kirk Cousins. It's the perfect trade.
And and more in the Ravens sense, it's like, knowing the fact of how they won their 2 Super Bowls, Kirk Cousins could win a Super Bowl with the Ravens.
Oh, without a question.
That's the type of, Kirk Cousins could go down finally winning a Super Bowl if that happens. I think in this sense, I would actually trust Kirk Cousins to win a Super Bowl more with the Ravens than Lamar Jackson with the Vikings. If that trade happened, I would give a 22% chance to Kirk Cousins to win a Super Bowl in Baltimore. Like, if he just finished out his career there, I would give him a 22% chance to win it. Just based off of 16%. 16% chance of that happening, because essentially, no matter what, you'd still have to go through Patrick Mahomes, but it would be a some type of thing that would make that happen, which is why it ends up being 16. It's there would be a lot of things that would need to happen. The only other team that I've actually thought about, so I did see the whole Vikings thing, and I did kind of initially think about that, but my bigger gripe is I think Minnesota, where they would like it, yes, because they are frustrated with Kirk. I also think What about the 49ers?
Well, yes. I mean, if
Like,
anybody who goes to the
but
the
like the 49ers just said, yes, we want Purdy to be the guy. Purdy had surgery on his elbow for most as a Tommy John like surgery. For baseball guys, they missed the year. The year. Like they want him to be back by training camp. They're lucky if he's back maybe midway into the season. Maybe.
yeah, a lot of speculation is around Thanksgiving.
And so even to that, like, well, we don't really know with Trey. We don't really know. And so if you really do like Purdy and like, hey, Purdy can kind of be the guy, what about like a Trey Lance swap?
Oh yeah. I mean, if the
Lamar comes
idea
in and plays for 2 years, Purdy gets completely healthy, takes over the team. Like that's a viable option. Like I can throw out a ton of options. The Cowboys make logical sense. Dak Prescott would fit. They were able to move some other pieces. They're not as stringent on hanging on to some other stuff. Like Dallas could put a decent package together to make that move happen. It's like that's viable. That's a solid choice. I still like what we
well,
originally talked
so
about, like looking at the Bears. Like the Bears could still make that trade.
well,
Like,
yeah, they're not. But so here's where
I don't know.
if you're Baltimore, you have to ask yourself this question:
Who do you want?
Are you in the business of saving money, right? Is that what you're trying to do, is build up enough cap space to where you can go out and just stack your roster kind of like the Bears did? Or do you believe that your roster is good enough right this very moment to go out and contend for a Super Bowl? Because if that's the case,
With Lamar Jackson.
you're still going to have to pay a quarterback. You just don't want to pay that type of money. So you could pay for guys like you said, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, I mean, not Brock Purdy, but Trey Lance is a dynamic enough quarterback who even if Trey goes out and balls out this year, there's nobody in their right mind that's going to pay Trey over $25 million a year. He hasn't played, like, he's played 2 games. You know what I mean? Like, he can't. So, and he'd only be going into what, his 3rd year now? He was in the same,
Yeah.
right. So I'm looking at it like this. If I'm at the Vikings, or if I'm, a team like you said, like the Cowboys, I'm looking at it like this. The teams that need to buy out Lamar are the teams that are one dynamic quarterback away from really taking it from playoff success to we're in the Super Bowl. And to me, I look at last year's Vikings team. Yes, their defense crumbled. Yes, they fired their defensive coordinator. They need to rebuild their defense. But one thing that we have seen is that with how good these college football players are getting, you can basically draft, 5 defensive players, and you can pretty much guarantee 3 of them are going to hit because of the way that the way the game is played now. It's so spread out. It's so remotely close to the college football game. Defensive players, wide receivers, and running backs are having immediate success as soon as they get into the NFL. It's like offensive line takes a little bit, quarterback takes a little bit, defensive line takes a little bit as they get into their, but you get cornerbacks that are running 4.3s out there, and most of them, they're not even asked to cover anymore. It's just go out there and ball hawk, kind of like, Trayvon Diggs does. Just go out there and try and get 8 interceptions a year, and then we'll pay you. You don't even have to be. Look at Trayvon, the year that he won. What was his award that he won? He won. He win Defensive Player of the Year or
It was the rookie defensive player of the
okay,
year.
rookie Defensive Player of the Year. He goes out there and he was statistically the worst coverage corner in the entire NFL, and yet led the league in interceptions. And everyone was like, Pro Bowl, Trayvon Diggs, new style of corner. That's what you're looking at now. Defenses are not asking you to be on your man like glue. They're saying, look, stay in the ballpark of him. And if the quarterback makes a fuck up, go up and get that football. We're in the business of turnovers. So, I mean, the way I'm looking at it is the teams that need Lamar are the teams that are one piece away, and the Vikings are literally one quarterback away. And then obviously you'd have to rebuild your defense, but you can do that in the draft. You can go out. They've already gotten rid of a lot of pieces. Thielen's gone. Zadarius Smith is gone. Hendricks is gone. And you're 1 year away from paying Justin Jefferson. Now, here's the only problem. If you go out and you get Lamar, then you basically are saying you got 1 year where everything is aligned perfectly this year. Go out and win it, because next year Justin's going to want his money. Dalvin Cook's going to want his money. You're getting into that ballpark of we're going to have to let somebody go, and they're not going to get rid of Jettas. They're going to get rid of Cook. They trade Cook before they traded Jettas. So you're kind of looking at it like this. We've got 1 year where everything aligns for us. If we're going to make this move, we got to make it right now. And plus they play on turf. And I know Lamar is a speed player, prefers to play in a warm dome climate. I mean, Minnesota's not warm, but
Yeah, that field, having played on that field, that's one of my favorite fields I've ever played on.
So
that field is incredible. I like that field way better than Jerry's World in Dallas, actually. Mm-hmm. It's way better of a football surface. A lot of people don't really actually talk about the Cowboys' actual indoor turf. It's really not as great as people make it, because they run so many other things out of there. It's done in a way that it's very easy for them to have the turf on and then have it out of there at the same time. It's not great. In Minnesota, that turf is great, but to that extent, the reason because of that same reason you brought up weather, it would actually suck for Lamar in that instance to have to play in Chicago and Green Bay.
That is true. But think about it. He was playing in Cleveland, but he was playing in Cleveland. He was playing in Pittsburgh. He was playing in Cincinnati. All of those places are
cold. Outdoor, cold, gross. Yeah, Baltimore, cold, gross.
Yep, exactly. So at least
you get 8. You're guaranteed 8, maybe 9 games.
That's what I'm saying.
In a beautiful 71 degrees, perfect architecture building.
And think about it. You'd be playing teams like Atlanta. You'd be playing teams like Carolina
and those
Tampa
fans
Bay.
Are incredible.
Oh yeah. Oh God, the Vikings fans. They love Vikings football. And I'm telling you, if you signed Lamar Jackson, that is the biggest thing to come to Minnesota since
they would lose their minds.
Oh God, yeah. It would be like
Vikings fans think that they have a chance at the Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. If Lamar showed up, oh my goodness, they would be worse than Cowboy fans.
It'd be the biggest thing. It'd be the biggest signing since Kevin Garnett, by far. I mean, because like when Kevin Garnett played for the Timberwolves, it was
100%. But I guarantee you'd still have those people be like, "Well, Lamar, and he's not that really." And it's like, yeah, I know, but we'll put it this way: he's a lot more exciting than Kirk Cousins.
So let me ask you this, and this is the final thing before we move on this. How amazing would it be to be watching Justin Jefferson taking passes from Lamar Jackson? Whew, that would be must-watch.
Actually, we'll put it this way: I think anywhere Lamar goes, based on the fact of his game is different. So I still consider Lamar a runner. There's scramblers, there's extension play guys, and there's runners. Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen are runners.
Yeah.
They're looking to run the football. Correct. If you took the running out of their game, they don't have any game.
You're right.
So for the teams that maybe like I would think there's a chance that Jefferson could get upset. And I think that's part what you see, like what happens a lot with Diggs, because there's a lot of times that Josh Allen does make the great plays and gets the ball to Diggs, but then there's a lot of times where he extends a play and there's a chance to throw it, and he's choosing to pick up the yards with his legs instead. So I think sometimes you see, hey, really, really good quarterbacks work really well with great receivers, and you see good athletes like Lamar is work better with those guys that aren't fantastic wide receivers, because it's like, well, my job is supposed to get the ball to the wide receivers, and that takes away from my game if I'm just standing in the pocket throwing the ball, which he can do. I'm not saying Lamar can't stand in the pocket and deliver the football. I'm just saying it takes his game to a lower level when you
Correct.
take that running element out. And I think sometimes you see some wide receivers, and I don't actually. I was gonna say I Jettas was frustrated with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a thrower of the football and was trying to get Jettas the football a lot. So in this instance, I think he could get to be a point where he's upset and he doesn't.
Maybe, but I think Justin Jefferson, I think he's a true gamer in the sense that he would much rather.
Be winning football games.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, and
He would rather choose to win the football game, and rather than, hey, I
he's a
went for
guy
200 and yeah,
He's a guy that, in my opinion, he'd much rather go for 6 for 75 and a touchdown than go 12 for 140 and 2 touchdowns and lose. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
so, but we can speculate all day. It's going to be very interesting. I don't foresee Lamar getting signed anytime soon. You're
No,
probably going to see something
after the
happen
draft.
after the
After the
draft.
draft.
That's right.
Everything is after the draft. I even think the Aaron Rodgers thing is after the draft,
So
because
we're waiting at least a month.
if it's quickly with the Aaron Rodgers thing, I'm not trying to get anything done before the draft, unless that, like, the Jets need to make a play. They need the first round pick situation, but like in for the Jets instance, it's like, we want him now. We need to get him working with people now. But I think the Packers, they're just like, hey, we're gonna chill out.
Yep.
But in Lamar's case, for a lot of teams, it works out in Lamar's favor and the team's favor, actually, to wait until after the draft. But like you said, we'll see in 4 weeks.
That's correct. All right, so let's move on to our final topic. I don't know if how much you've been catching of the NCAA tournament. So not only has this been, I believe, you know what? I'll start with this. I believe two things can be true at the exact same time. I believe this was one of the most entertaining NCAA tournaments in probably 10 years, without question. The amount of games and the amount of upsets that have taken place, unprecedented. I mean, for the first time in history, there was not a single number one seed in the Elite Eight. I mean, that's like unbelievable. It's mind blowing. But I also believe it's some of the worst basketball I've ever watched.
Correct.
And that is because the one and done. So my question and our topic is, for the next 10-ish minutes, is the one and done ruining college basketball?
No. I don't think it's ruining college basketball, because I think college basketball is going to end up being the same no matter what. Because you look at the teams like a Gonzaga or a UConn, it's teams that have guys for 3 to 4 years. They build, they're based off of chemistry. It's where really good 3-star players out of high school, we go to a Gonzaga, we go to a UConn, we go to a middle, one of these essentially blue blood teams, and we just build a great chemistry, and we play fantastic structured basketball around a system. It's a slow tempoed game. The coach calls the plays from the sidelines. We run half court sets for the entire game, and that's exactly what the best teams in college basketball do. They operate at their pace. They have their team, their system, their sets, and the team who does that the best wins that game. Now, the other thing for college basketball is also the same with college football. Playing on the road is much more crucial in college sports. Going into a different university, going into a very hostile arena, that atmosphere, completely different than the NBA. The NBA might be loud, the NBA might have a bunch of whatever, but at the end of the day, you're a bunch of professionals. There's fans of really both teams still in the building, and there's an element of, hey, these guys are grown men, versus when you're in college, you have a bunch of drunk 18, 19, 20, 22 year olds that are all frat boys that are like, they're in classes with some of these guys and they say a bunch of stuff that's off the cuff and they're hooting and hollering and screaming and yelling and they're just loud and it has no bearing on the actual sport. It's just the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the one and done, the best players in college, they're going to end up in the NBA anyways. So whether they're for a year, 2 years, that doesn't really matter. The best teams that bring those guys in, there's a reason the best top talent go to the best coaches or best programs, because hey, they don't care about college. They're there for, I need this much more. I need this much. I need this to get me to the next level. I want this coach to tell me this thing because he told this to this person who I modeled my game after. Get me to the next level. For the NCAA tournament though, and this also ties with, so this is both football and basketball. What you're seeing is you're seeing the NIL play a huge role in why the talent now is spread out. So you started to see it with college football. College football became very regional. And everyone's trying to chase and everyone's running to the SEC and everyone's like, oh, SEC football, SEC. SEC is the second best football conference. I will say it probably forever. The Big Ten, the way that's established, the way that those coaches run their organizations and their teams, the Big Ten historically and even now predominantly is better top to bottom as a franchise because their middle and bottom are better than the middle and bottom of the SEC. The SEC might have the top 2-3 teams, but their middle and down is trash compared to the Big Ten. But the NIL and what it did is it took all the top guys going to these five colleges and it said, hey, we're Miami. We have a bunch of money. Hey, do you want to come play for us? Hey, we got this deal for you. And then you've got an A&M. Hey, over here. Look at this. You can make some money. So I think that's more the difference of why we're seeing some of this start to happen. And so I like seeing it in college football to a degree. I think the transfer portal actually destroys sports. I think that should be gone. But you're starting to see like, no longer is this one this one team pulling all the talent. And it's like, whoa. Why'd that guy go to that school? It's like, oh, it comes out, 2 months later, he received an NIL deal and he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like, I guess that was probably a better take. And so I think that's what Miami's at right now. I think Miami had a couple guys on NIL deals. They had FAU and UConn is more of I think UConn is primarily a chemistry thing, but I don't primarily think it's one and done. I think the best talent is going to be the best, and it's a winner take all game. All you have to do is get hot in one person has a hot hand, run away, get a little bit ahead, run a couple good set plays, and that's where college basketball kind of gets it. But I think the basis is that.
Let me expand upon this. I think most sports fans and most college basketball fans, I think we're hypocrites. We claim that we love all of these exciting games, right? This is what we have literally been asking for 10 years. We want down to the wire games, every single game, buzzer beater shots. We want the 16 seeds beating the ones. We want the 15s going all the way to the Elite Eight. All we claim about that, we want that stuff. But in reality, we don't. In the last 10 years, and there's only a couple of answers actually that I believe you can actually point to. Tell me the 2 teams in the NCAA tournament that commanded the biggest narratives. There's only 2 of them. That was the 2015 Kentucky Wildcats when they had 5 starting freshmen, all one and dones. So they had Willie Cauley-Stein, and they had, I believe it was Tyus Jones was on that team. All NBA players.
Yeah.
That when they went up against Wisconsin, that 31-0 team, and they lost. Or it was something around that.
When they lost, yes, they lost in the tournament. Yeah.
Yes, they lost in the tournament. That was one narrative. And then the second team was with Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, and Cam Reddish. We're all hypocrites because here's the thing. the schools and the players and the teams that command the most talent, the NBA talent, are the ones that we want to see succeed. After Duke got beat by, I believe it was UCF, or whomever they got beat by. Same thing with Lonzo Ball when he was playing at UCLA. These teams that
Gosh, that
command
was
these
so hype.
the teams that command these massive NBA bodies and these massive NBA presence, those are the narratives that actually go further with the way that people tune into these games. And everyone's like, oh no, that's not true. We just want to see good basketball games. This is the definition of good basketball, is right
Yeah,
now in the
but
sense of the game
I think
itself.
with this year though, people actually are really happy about this year. I think there's a lot of people upset about like money and gambling and brackets because they're like, "Oh, like what? All the unders are hitting, all the dogs are cashing." So like I think people like every year they talk about, "Oh man, I'm going to make a dogs bracket. Like I'm just going to like it's underdog in upset city. Like heck yeah, like can't wait." And like they do that and it's like, oh, and it never happens. So I think like people always get so energized and juiced about it. And I think to the Duke point and some of those blue bloods, I think the reason people like watching them is because people like rooting against those teams. Like being
To
the
some
true
degree.
fanatics. Like you think about Duke. Most people hate Duke. Most people can't stand watching them play. Most people can't stand North Carolina. Most people can't stand Kentucky. Sometimes it has to do with their coach. Sometimes it has to do with the team. Sometimes it has to do with one player. I mean, we can look at the fact that ESPN made a 30 for 30 on Christian Laettner. I mean, there, there, there's this MO that like when it comes to Duke, people are like, ugh, Duke, you're probably a Yankees fan too. Like that's just kind of like it's like people have this natural tendency where it's like, oh, well, this team kind of wins a lot. So when you see the repetition, there are a lot of bandwagon Duke fans across the country because they win all the time. The same goes for Kentucky. The same goes for UCLA and North Carolina. So I think that has its own. But I think when being the whole fanatic part, and especially the whole college piece, and like they get a little bit crazier about it, is the actual rooting against teams and the oh, no, they're definitely losing in the bracket. That's bullshit. They shouldn't have won. And this is and I think that's also now where the gambling piece is where people instantly make it out to be worse or it's not that team's fault. It's someone else's fault. Like the team they were destined to win. They were supposed to win. It's rigged. And it's like if it was rigged, then why did half the people bet that way? It's
If it
just
was
you're a bad
rigged,
better.
if it was
You're just a bad better.
if it was rigged, FAU would not be in the Final Four. No one wanted to see Florida Atlantic in the Final Four.
And
You know the
I
teams
think
we want to see in the Final Four? We want to see Duke. We want to see Kansas. We want to see Kentucky. We want to see the Villanovas and
yeah,
all of these.
realistically, everyone's tournament is the Elite Eight is 1 versus 2 in every region, and all the ones win, and then it's all the ones against each other, and everyone's like, "Oh man, it's here we go, it's down to the wire, Duke, Kansas, and oh here we go." Like that's what people want. Like people want great games from great,
Teams,
established.
historically great teams. Yes,
But what ends up happening is it's basketball. And this is my piece that I want to push back on very heavily for all the people that are like, the NCAA needs a football. It's like, yes, we get it. Every other division and of both football and every other sport in college has a tournament. But for football at the highest level, trust me, we don't need a tournament. I've said for years and years now, as we've gotten with the college football playoff and where we've ended up. I will literally probably be red in the face for how many times I will continue to say this, and especially the fact that they just expanded it to 12 teams.
Yeah.
Is the dumbest thing the NCAA would have ever done. Because by expanding it to 12 teams, all you're doing is opening up the door for more and more and more of these small schools where, like, yes, they should get a chance, but their chance should be small. It shouldn't be this, hey, if you have a solid season and you're a 2-loss team, you should get to play for the national championship. It's like, no, that's not how this shit works.
Yeah.
It needs to be 8 teams. Because you know what you establish it on? Winning. You win your conference, you got 5 spots available. Congratulations. Power 5, you guys all have a spot. Whoever wins your conference. So if you're Georgia, you go undefeated and you lose in that conference championship game to someone who's equally as good as you on the opposite side, sucks. You're not in one of those top 5 spots because you didn't win your conference. Now, it leaves space for, you can do it the same way it's always been. You leave one spot open for a group of 5, the highest ranked group of 5 team, which is the way the New Year's Six Bowls work right now. You're giving the small schools the option right now. You can say, hey, if you are a small school in a group of 5 conference, if you are the top ranked school of the outside schools, you are playing in a New Year's Six Bowl. Quit bitching about the small school doesn't have a chance. It's like, you do. There's a reason Cincinnati has played in those games. There's a reason
Big East, Mountain West,
Boise State has played in those games. It's like, you're given the chance.
Yep.
You're given the chance. You have to go and take it, and only one team gets a chance. But you know what? The second best team isn't as good as the third team in the Big Ten, or the third team in the SEC, or the second team in the ACC. Like, I'm sorry, you're not as good. You don't have as much talent across the board. All 22 starters are not nearly on that same level. So you have your 5 conference winners. You have your 1 group of 5 highest ranked, and you get 2 at-large bids for mostly, hey, if Georgia loses in their conference championship game, well, they're still going to the tournament. And then you look at any other conference runner-up and you go, okay, who's the best conference runner-up, or who's the next best team that's a non-conference winner? How do you need anything more simple? It is 8 teams. You go 8, you go 4, and you have a championship game. What else do you need? It is 7 total games that will be played. You have 4 games. You then have 2 games and 1 game.
1 game. 7
It
games.
is 7 perfect games that you need. Now we're at 12, and you're like, well, we're going to play 6 games. And these guys are going to get there. We're going to go 4 because these 2 will get a bye. And then we're going to have
I think 12 is
another set. And I'm like,
12 is too much.
Why? Because people already did what 12 teams would have made it. And it was like, there was a fucking 3-loss team in there. And it's like, why? I don't give a shit if they are a good team.
As big as a fan of Notre Dame as I am, and I am. I bleed blue and gold. If you were going by the 12 win or the 12 team playoff, Notre Dame gets in, and they lost to Marshall last year.
Exactly.
And I would have been
Which
furious.
is my point. Which is my point. It's like, now, like, that's where we run into this whole NCAA. Hey, we've got 68 teams in this basketball tournament. Why? Like, we're talking about this exact reason. And it's like, oh, well, they beat them. And it's like, yeah, if you played them you played one other game against them, I guarantee you get demolished. You play a 3-game series, I guarantee you get waxed in 2 games. Like, anybody can beat anybody once. Which is why
that's exactly right.
Well, 12 teams for football now. It's like, all Alabama has to do is lose 1 time. Guess what? I can scheme and prepare and have a perfect game 1 time.
Yeah. And that's exactly how I was going to close this out. The NCAA tournament to me is not who is the best team in college basketball. It's who's playing the best right now.
Yep.
It's exactly right. Well, that's how we have to leave it. It was a great show. Thank you for joining us. Almost an hour of Say It Like You See It. By the way, you can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can follow us on our Instagram and our TikToks. That's Say It Like You See It Pod. On the IG is also Say It Like You See It. On TikTok, we're on YouTube. We are on Facebook, streaming live right now. From heart of Green Bay, Packer country, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, I am Trace the Moose Moustakis, joined as always by Quinn, the Mighty Q Redmond. We will see you guys on Friday. Be cool.